All right, the lights are on. This is the best I can do. I'm getting a lot of reflection. The glasses, I still can't handle my my backwardsness. But we're in a nice, playful mood today. We tapped into the Eggyverse in the last episode. In this episode, we have to develop this character for Linoleum Blown Apart. Okay. So, just to briefly go over Linoleum Blown Apart, it is the story of a kid in a punk rock band who sees a film and realizes it's called Bonaparte Bon Ami, and he realizes that he has the same birthday as Napoleon. So, very similar to Adamant, he begins dressing like Napoleon and develops a Napoleonic complex. But we also drift back in time to the filmmaker and why he made the film. So, the punk rock kid has the same birthday as Napoleon. He learns about it through a film made by a filmmaker called Bonaparte Bon Ami. It's the last film Walter made. And we have to find out why Walter made this film. Well, it's because in 1929, he watched Abel Gans' 5-hour silent film called Napoleon, which I watched 3 hours of. Right? Okay. And he watched this with his father and his uncle. And it was one of the last things that they ever did together because Walter was kidnapped by a fascist government and he was put into their film department, but it's 1930. So nobody really knows what film is. Film is just kind of coming out. So when Walter begins working in the film department, he starts learning all about cameras, lenses. He's out there shooting B-roll at about 18 years old. They're setting him up to be a wunderkind. But don't forget, he's kidnapped and he can no longer identify with his father and uncle anymore. And so the fascist government, this minister of propaganda, is trying to be nice to Walter. He's trying to be avuncular, fatherly to him. Okay, so what's the first thing Walter's going to do? He's going to rebel. Luckily for him, this fascist mentor takes him to go see a play. It's called Vivisection on the Danube, but they really went there to shut the play down. Okay, but Walter sees this play and he falls in love with a woman named Eva. Now, Eva is a communist because fascism is coming in, but she's more of a Trotskyite. She wants communism around the world. Okay, and she wants the working man to rise up. But that's not even what we're talking about today. Guys, I could go on and on and on. I know the minutia of this project. We're going to be talking about Thomas Pynchon. We're going to be talking about Alfred Bester. Okay. And I don't want to talk about any of these synthetic synchronicities. I don't even know how I found this, but I guess I found it through a search engine. It's called The Stars, My Destination. I talked about it a little bit yesterday. I couldn't really recall it too much. We're going to talk about it today. Why? Because we have to develop this character that Walter meets. Now, back to Walter's story. Stay with me. Walter meets his wife, sees this play, and his life changes. He falls in love. Of course. She's beautiful and she's really feisty. He's never met anybody like her. She's very, they call these women domineering. I don't know what you call them today. You just call her, she's an alpha female. And so he begins hooking up with her and her friends because they shut the play down. Her and her friends don't know what to do. So they hang out at the coffee shop. He sees them while he's out shooting B-roll and they develop what's going to turn into Walter's first film, which is called Of Reasonable Service. And this is where Eva puts him down for being a Christian, but it's kind of all he knows. He uses something from the Bible. We could always substitute that somehow. I'm not really sure if Romans is Yeah, Romans is Old Testament, so we don't really have to worry about any ethnic issues here, whether or not he's a Christian, whatever, or a Judeo-Christian, whatever. I got sidetracked. So, right, so that's what he uses. He uses a term from the Bible. Eva puts him down because of it, and he gets that shame, right? He gets that shame, and he's mad for kind of the first time, like he's trying to contribute to this, and this woman belittles him. Well, I talk about that a little bit, on my show about, this is what women do. And when you read the Arthurian tales, you'll see very similar stories to this, where women, I remember one specifically, and the knight was on his way to his errand, and he runs into another knight, and this knight is doing something very strange. And the knight asks him, well, what are you doing? Hello, Kate. Are you connected to Nathan at Lift the Veil, or are you somebody else? So he runs into this other knight, and the knight explains to him that he has to finish this duty before he can leave. And while he's doing his duty, there's a woman who's putting him down. So this is kind of a tactic. I talk about these masculine, feminine issues quite a bit. And so this is going into this property. What it is, it's going to be a novel, right? I have to write the novel probably before I can get interest in this television series. It's going to be a series. Okay. So you're going to vacillate between the punk rock kid and Walter's life. Okay, but you're never going to see Walter actually shoot a film. I want to make sure that I say that every episode. So Walter goes into the studio. Okay, just forget. There's a lot of more detail. We're going to jump ahead. Okay, everything works out. No, I'm not Nathan's wife. Okay, well, I was just wondering, as I talk about those guys quite a bit. So how are you familiar with the show? I'm talking to someone in StreamYard. So, but what we're talking about today is the novel that I'm writing, which is I'm pitching a television show. That's why I'm in California. That's why I'm in Los Angeles. Okay. See, there they go, right? See, or maybe I am in another timeline. People are talking about this right now. It's probably an AI bot. So, right? So they say, no, I'm not Nathan's wife, or maybe I am in another timeline. So here you go. So a lot of people are talking about this type of thing, that time is relative, and they're talking about time travel right now. I believe this is a complete psychological operation. I believe this is part of, oh, okay, good. Yeah, whatever. I support Lift the Veil too. I hope he's doing okay, but I can tell that he's probably cooked. And that's what they did to me. I talked about this yesterday as far as Anthony Bourdain, Chester Bennington, Kate Spade, and Chris Cornell from Soundgarden. Okay. They all experienced suicide by hanging. Okay. And I went through this same thing. So please check out yesterday's show for more on that. Yeah, they're only joking. I get it. It's cool. I know. Again, it's just that, people are kind of repeating the same things over and over again. So, are you familiar with Linoleum Blown Apart, Kate? I got to ask a question. So, it's a little distraction from our show. If you can't see what's coming up on the timeline, maybe there's a way I can indicate that I'm speaking to Kate while I do my show. Okay. So, what the show's about is about developing the professor character with Walter. Okay. Walter's the filmmaker who was born in 1915. His film, Bonaparte Bonami, inspires a kid in 1987-ish. Okay. So these are the timelines that I'm talking about. Good. I'm glad to hear that about him. She's talking about Nathan from Lift the Veil. he was saying some very strange and bizarre things. And these are similar things to what I was talking, how I was talking. And I believe that people are attacking other people through their apps. Okay. And I wanted to explore that a little bit more. Please look at Frances Haugen's testimony. And I think I'm going to do an entire episode about her testimony. And I'm going to deconstruct it for you guys. And I believe they were using apps, and I was calling them Fed rats because I'm from the streets. You can see I'm in Los Angeles. I didn't run out to the woods somewhere in Michigan. I actually came here, and yeah, yeah. Well, in case you don't know, Kate, what I'm doing is I'm writing a novel, and this novel, just like anybody else's, I want to turn it into a television series. Anybody who writes a novel, you can see it while you read it. You can see it in your mind. It's playing out. You can picture the characters. So, what is the penultimate? Um, that's why Nietzsche fell in love with Wagner. He just it blew his mind. And similarly, when Walter goes to see a play, Vivisection on the Danube, that his future wife actually wrote and produced with her friends in a fascist country in the 1930s, he's going to have a similar experience. And he's going to be able to see. I've gotten work as an actor. I talk about that a little bit. I was a production assistant. I was an actor. I've done a lot of things. I wrote a book. If you check out yesterday's episode, in the comment section, I have pinned, I think my writing is there. I write in treatment form. So I don't get into minutia and word salad. It's very sparse. It's very easy reading. That's how I write. I write, like I said, in treatments, and all that stuff is available on Kindle. And so today, what we're doing is we're developing Walter's a character that Walter meets, who is a professor. Now, don't forget, this professor is based on Mark Fisher. Mark Fisher talked about something known as hauntology, how once you're out, he was talking about Marxism, and it's like how these things just kind of come back. Now, don't forget, they had these series of films in the 1940s when we're fighting fascism, we're fighting communism in the 50s. They had these cartoons, and they were, yeah, I wonder what you look like. Yeah. Anyways, they were just saying that I look like an actor. Well, whatever. There's a lot of different actors. I'm a big fan of Victor Argo. He's a great actor. I like these guys. Goddamn, Tracy Walter. I like people like that. Just these regular people actors, these interesting characters. Anyways, I don't want to get too far afield. And by the way, guys, don't forget, yesterday I was talking about Anthony Bourdain, and he is a cinema guy. I talked about this before. Take a look at Bradley Cooper doing a film about a drugged out chef. Okay, this is an Anthony Bourdain archetype. Take a look at Anthony Bourdain's novel, Bone in the Throat. It's a great title, just a great title. No double entendre there, just somebody choking to death while they eat. I mean, just genius, right? It's just natural, right? It's just easy and natural title, right? Just, and that's what's so great about it. They made a film from one of Anthony Bourdain's books. Okay, so that's all in yesterday's episode. Please check it out. I urge you to. Okay, yeah, I wonder what you look like, Kate. You see, there's no answer. Yeah, it's more like Nate than Kate, probably. Anyway, so just to give you a little bit of background, so Walter steals all the footage, comes to America, and a studio head finds him. One of three brothers that run the studio. One of them, is a hands-on guy, like Hail Caesar. Uh, if you've ever seen this film, it's really great. I love it. The Coen brothers come up quite a bit. One of my favorite films is Miller's Crossing. That's based on two Dashiell Hammett novels put together. I told you I talked about Dashiell Hammett as a Hollywood hanger-oner, and Dashiell Hammett, his archetype is going to be used for Grabowski. Grabowski is the one who wrote a book called Pork Chops and the Hoosgow, which is the very first film that Walter makes without any, you know, help from the studio. He makes it all himself. Okay. And everybody loves this film, but the studio tell him that it didn't make any money, it didn't do any good because they're trying to poo-poo him. Because in that time, there's no way for him to check. There's no way for him to know, right? You know, and one of the studio heads has some of these people in the newspaper in their pocket so they can write a bad review, and the studio actually will pay them to write a bad review. Okay, so they're trying to get Walter, you know, it's like what they're doing with me with this LARPing. They think that if you tease or harass somebody, it's going to make them stronger. You know, I don't necessarily believe that. I believe in nurturing talent, which doesn't mean coddling. It means nurturing it. You have to be there. And that's why I left Detroit. My talent wasn't being nurtured there. And I went out to seek other talent. And, you know, I worked as an actor. I'm a songwriter. Okay. I'm a musician. Okay. And as well as you can see, I can do my show. I've done live theater. So there's no fucking Zoolander here, man. And one of the guys who was shit talking me about Zoolander, he couldn't handle his dope, so he's dead. I am a child from the streets, make no mistake about that either. So again, what I'm trying to do is take all my ideas and put it into fiction because I already wrote a book called Two-Legged Animal. Okay, it's a short memoir. It's only 200 pages, but the stories are really palatable. Okay, so it's tough for me. Yeah. It's pretty doomy outside. It's pretty gloomy and doomy. So we're trying to stay focused. I hope this water works. It's called smart water, so let's just hope it works. Let's hope it does the trick. Oh boy. So Walter comes to America. We already have that. He saves the studio with Of Reasonable Service. He gets to make Pork Chops in the Hoosgow. Then he hooks up with Jeremy Cloud, and don't forget, Jeremy Cloud wrote a book as well. And they take their experiences together and they mirror it with this information that they get from the military industrial complex. Okay. And the way that Stanley Kubrick did for Dr. Strangelove. Okay. Right? So that's what Jeremy Cloud and Walter do for two pictures. And on the second picture, which is called Nana Sticky Candy Dish, the first one's called The Spangled Banner. The second one's called Nana Sticky Candy Dish. It's about a 17-year-old girl finding her sexuality while saving the family fortune. Right? Comes out in 1960. Well, he kind of throws this Atlantic power elite under the bus. Okay, because Jeremy Cloud is part of that Atlantic power elite. Okay, and these are I guess you call them Malthusians, and they actually believe that the resources, what they're doing in reality outside, what they're doing to us people, they're faking, creating scarcity. We already know that the government told farmers not to farm. We already know that corporations were taking over the food industry. And now they're going to create synthetic meat and bugs for us to eat instead of actually food. So these Malthusians, I think that's what they're called, they're creating a fake scarcity in food. And this is what Henry Kissinger was talking about. Okay. And this is the view that the population grows more than the sustenance that could keep you eating. And you can see this is a fake propagated situation that we're in, because there's no reason not to have a booming economy filled with food. I mean, I don't mean a booming economy, but just right? So all the prices just shot up for all this food. First in history, they tell farmers not to farm. Then, cut to what's happening now. Prices are going through the roof and there's a scarcity. It's created by design, and it's created by these people who kind of still hold power. And I don't know why they're still in power. If we're in the era of the crowning of the child and the technocratic future, why they're still following the script. Because I'm an old punk rocker and we can go wild in the streets and we can hopefully counteract this. I don't know. I don't want to get too far afield with that, but that's what they are. They're Malthusians, and that's what Henry Kissinger was. And that's what Klaus Schwab, who's taking over for Henry Kissinger, and that's what they're all about. Okay. What does that have to do with my day to day? Only in the food prices. Luckily, I'm in Los Angeles and I treat it like a small town. I say, hello, how you doing? I try to introduce myself to people. And I know it's a bustling city and I know there's people running game, but you got to look past that. And you got to just keep going. Unfortunately, I would probably do pretty well as a criminal. I never went that route, really, to be honest with you. It's just not in my heart. I'm a creative person. And what we're doing right now is, I don't know how I came across this. Somehow I discovered a book. It was called The Stars, My Destiny. Okay. This book came out in 1956. And just to show you, and it's based on a William Blake. Now, here's what it looks like. So you can look at yourself. And this is Alfred Bester. And so check it out. So Alfred Bester wrote something else. And Thomas Pynchon wanted to create an opera, I believe, about Walter Bester's book. Maybe this is how I found Walter Bester, but I'm just discovering this information now. Right? I'm just discovering it now. Okay. So there's a tie-in with Thomas Pynchon. Now, I started getting into Thomas Pynchon a little bit more because of Paul Thomas Anderson. I just watched something that kind of revealed some scenes in The Master as part of his book called V. I really like the idea behind Thomas Pynchon. And again, I'm very sorry, I'm a slow reader. I'm wiki alma mater. I told you I'm boomer cusp, right? Someone was making fun of a boomer because they were talking about Q, and because they believe in the psyop, okay? And I explained to you guys already that was a psychological operation, and it was targeted towards people who were boomers. It was targeted towards moms, stay-at-home moms, and that's why it has so much feminine energy, because it's attached to children, right? So, right. But we know that they're going to be using children as emotional blackmail right here. And that's what created this Jim Caviezel film. Now, don't forget, marooning is actually immigrants. And when people like Henry Kissinger go bomb a country, they're going to move those immigrants in. And so they're going to have these things set up, right? Doctors Without Borders, you're going to have a route set up. Okay. And in these routes, you're going to have drugs and human trafficking. Okay. So this is all part of, and then the people come through, then they come into a neighborhood and they get all these alleged. Now, this is coming from Media Deep Blue. Media Deep Blue is gaslighting people. They're saying these immigrants are getting more than the people who live there. That causes animosity between the people who live there, and then they clash. And then who comes in? The Flatfoots. So right now, one of my other properties that I'm developing is actually, man, I got to put these on, guys. I was trying to do them without it. Okay. One of the properties I'm developing is a black swan, in that it's a complete surprise out of left field. Okay. It's a complete surprise. This is the story. Okay. There's a black swan. And one day, all these Flatfoots get let go because of the panopticon of AI watching everybody. And now they took the police force and they went, shh, we only need, I don't know, 100 guys. And you know how many people are on the police force? Thousands. They just lay off 2,500 people and only keep 100. Why? Because they have drones, they got helicopters, and the cops are paramilitary. And if there's an issue, they are going to put you down. You understand? They are fierce. And now you have a town where 2,500 people are put out on the street. And you have a glitch in the matrix that we know that it's created. But they say, oh, well, something happened. And, tell them you heard it here first. It's called a walk out of jail day. Right? So they got walk out of jail day. Right? It's kind of like White Boy Day in Detroit. Right? That's why Quentin Tarantino put that in his script, because he got his ideas from an African-American gentleman. I think he was dating somebody in his life. I don't know. I don't want to say who, but he was dating somebody. And that's where he got all this stuff for True Romance. That's where he got his first scripts from, an African-American gentleman in his life. I actually lived in 1970s Detroit. Okay. And so that's part of the reason why I came out here to Hollywood, and I pitch my ideas and I talk about a lot of things. And I'm fully capable of doing, I already did a half an hour show today. Now I'm going to do an hour show. It's just as easy as that. So I have no problem working with anyone who's interested in working with me. I don't know why I took my glasses off again, but all right. So we're talking about Walter, and he's done with Jeremy Cloud. Jeremy Cloud disappears just like his name, Cloud. He did 2 films with him. The second one is Not a Sticky Candy Dish, right? And so here it is. It's 19 Homina Homina. It would be 1959. Okay. Not a Sticky Candy Dish comes out in 1960. So he's done by 1959. So now he has to go. And so they give him a stack of scripts to read. They're like, we want you to do science fiction. Well, there's going to be a tie-in to Of Reasonable Service, his first film, and Scorpius XL. And that tie-in is going to be the character who is the rocket scientist in Of Reasonable Service. Okay. Of Reasonable Service comes out in 1945. There's a rocket scientist in the, like von Braun. Okay. And in the film, they escape from the fascist country and, whatever. Godwin comes back and saves them. There's a big fight. Now, I want to give you guys a spoiler on Of Reasonable Service and move my neck. There's going to be a fight between Godwin and the fascist who's in love with Eva, who's been paying and bankrolling her brother, Werner, and his rocket club, because he's going to be using it as weapons. But he's been telling Werner that they're going to go to the stars. Hence, here we are, The Star's My Destination by Alfred Bester. You guys putting this together now? Okay, I'm not talking about the narrative to The Star's My Destination, Alfred Bester, but I'm talking about having the same notion in a fascist country. Now, this is Walter's first film, but it mirrors reality. Do you see how complex this is? Right? This is why I like Thomas Pynchon and Paul Thomas Anderson. Right? And I like the Rentals too. That was a good band. All right. So, so we have this. Because here my stomach go. I found some pizza yesterday, so I ate found food. I got up and I had my coffee. It cost me $2.59, and then I found some more food. So I'm doing good, and I also have a $8 Subway. I just found on the ground. I'm like, yes, I'll take an Italian. So it's called spicy Italian. So we have, let me see what time it is, 12 o'clock. Yay, we got another hour. Yes, yes, yes. Thanks for sticking with me, guys. This is my creative process. I'm doing what I want to do with my life within the means that I have to do it. So right now I can only come here and broadcast from the public library. That's all I can do. That's it. So I would do much more. I need to work. Oh, and by the way, the most important thing about Linoleum Blown Apart, the television series, are my songs. And I'm going to see right now if I can pull up a song. Just because we have an hour left, we're going to see what we can do here. Okay, we're going to see what we can do. I got to turn down the volume, so I'm not sure what's going to happen. So we're going to see. Right. Okay. I can't even think of the name of the song here. And I don't like this version, but that's my problem. Oh, man, how come it take so long to find this? I can't even think of the name of it. Oh, it's called Back When. Sorry. It's called Back When. And why I can't find it, I don't know. And I don't like the version of this song. And I don't know why I can't find it. Oh, man. It's not here. I don't know why. Oh. Well, I'm going to have to play this. Here it is, Back When. Jesus. All I had to do is hit it twice. Let's see. You guys hear this? Okay. That's what you call a hook. Sorry. I was all like, you got the melody of the song. You don't have to hear the rest of the song. That's the whole point that I'm trying to tell you. You don't have to hear the rest of the song. You've got the melody to the song. You guys want to hear it again? I'm smart, Mike. I can do it. Here we go. All right, so I stop it right before the lyrics come in. I'm singing out of tune. I'm working with really unprofessional people, I should say. And the one guy turned on me, and they tried to run game on me. In case you don't know, I'm part Southern African, so they thought that it was funny. African Americans run game on me, and these Peckerwood gangs do the same thing. Um, if you're a soldier, then go fucking soldier. If that's what you think you're put on the earth to do, don't fuck with me because I'll show you who you're fucking with. I don't appreciate it. And this was a guy that I knew, and he runs with these fucking skinheads in Michigan. And they couldn't handle the fact that I actually have more talent than they do. Okay. Because it takes talent to write these songs. And I actually left the nest. Oops. And duck's nest. So, I'm still angry about it because what they did was they used the Facebook app. And like I said, people from the Trumbull House were in on this. And that's right. And guys in my own band. Just because they're like fucking losers, man. And, like I said, my motto is anytime, anywhere. So, anyways, you can hear the hook. Now, let me play you another one. Pretty please. Here's another one for you. You can take a listen to the hook. That's me using my guitar like a hammered dulcimer. Right? So there's a hook. Burning in the night, like Detroit, a devil's night, girl, burning in the night. Right? So there you have it. All right. So at least I was able to demonstrate a couple of my songs. I have 30. I'll try to pin the episode. It's called Acoustapunk, but at a certain point, I go into this long diatribe. If you want to hear the songs, just listen to the songs. I wish I could clip some of the songs because I think Izzy's comes out really good. And I think Just My Imagination comes out really good. I'd like to clip those songs. I'd like to do a lot. I really need someone like Kate. Fake. I really need someone to work with. I miss that. And I need somebody who's actually on my side, who's not going to put behavioral malware on my computer, then kill my parents and then blame me for it. That's what they were planning on doing in Michigan. I bring it up every show. Okay. And I don't really care what happens to any of these people, but I'm here to tell you this. We only know about 100 people in our life. And you fucked up when you crossed me. You fucked up when you crossed me. Okay. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know where to go. And they tortured me from 2017. It was actually an ongoing operation inside the state of New York. And the whole point was to torture me. And they did nonstop through this device. And then it just continued. And again, you can only speculate as to why, but we all make mistakes. So I made myself available to another person who was involved in some malfeasance. I made myself available to them, let them know, but there you go. That does have nothing to do with my wife using a neurological weapon on me whenever she felt like it, because I never crossed my wife, nor did I cross anybody in my band. I don't know what their problem is with me, but now I have a problem with them, and that's different. Right? Now it's this. It's fisticuffs or nothing. And it looks like it's going to be nothing because we know that there's never any revenge. We know it never works out like that. That's why it's such a satisfying scene in The Godfather 2, where Vito, played by De Niro, gets to go back to his village and ice that guy. Okay, so, right? That's why these guys come up to me and they say icing and all this kind of stuff. They throw ice. Yeah, that's why they're trying to say you're dead or something. I'm like, okay, dude, you can stop now. I was in the Beverly Hills Library, and this gentleman's like, I'm gonna kill you. I'm gonna kill you. I'm like, can you just wait until I'm busy right now? Thank you. Have a nice day. And I go back to what I'm doing. This has been going on nonstop since my divorce. Okay. And again, it's both blacks and whites involved in this. These people are literally, they actually believe that they're animals. I know that we are demigods. We have nothing to do with the animal kingdom except for being mammals. Okay. We are demigods. And academia, you can see, academia is part of government. Government and academia are joined at the hip. So what they're teaching in the schools is what they're going to be pushing in the government, right? And nobody's questioning, whatever. I don't want to get too into it. So don't forget, I was writing, really inspired by people like Hank from Black Flag. I don't like his music. I actually like his, like the idea behind his writing. Don't get in the van or whatever it's called. Get back in the van, whatever. So he was just he was journaling. And this is how I started. I started as a songwriter and I started journaling. And this came out of just me being a kid and me being somewhat isolated from the rest of my family. So I grew up with 4 women. Okay. And a lot of these men actually project a sexuality on me. And that's what you call a sissy crush. That's what they have. They have a crush on another man. They turned it into a man crush. You know how you say someone has a man crush because you're with your buddy all the time. You're drinking beer and going to Home Depot and you get yelled at because your wife wants to go to Lowe's and pick out lampshades. I always use that one. So, right. So that's how I look at it. You have an unnatural obsession. Like I talk about guys in my band because we were actually at one time no longer friends, right? Because I have to decide where I'm going to focus my emotions, and that's going to be on new friends and a new family out here, hopefully in Los Angeles, right? Why? I don't know why I keep turning my head that way. And then another thing, right? So, I don't know, whatever. So I'm just doing my lecture. And unfortunately, I don't know how it looks. Does it look better if I do my lecture out here? I don't know. It's like, your eyeline is crazy. And so are you. All right, just taking a break, guys. You're talking about doing these shows. This eats up a lot of calories, and people don't understand that. When I was writing songs at 1515 Winder in Detroit, where they're writing white power on the wall, I think some people know all about that. See, we didn't write that stuff in the original grievance committee. You see how it works now? Yeah. And then come to find out the guys who left the grievance committee, one of them is hooking up with one of the guys, oh, it's on, son. Make no mistake about it. And hopefully we can get it on video and show all of you. Even if I lose a fist fight, that's okay. I'll make sure it goes up on video. And this is between very specific people. This isn't random. I'm not mad at the world. I don't have a grudge against society. I know how to focus what I'm doing, and I know how to differentiate the pieces of trash who use this. And the people who use this as a weapon are pieces of human garbage. That's what I feel about you, because it's a neurological weapon. It does a lot of damage, and they don't understand that. People like my ex-wife. So you had no business using it. My business with my ex-woman, who was a coke whore, and I was ride or die with her, man, you guys can't wrap your mind around it. That's your problem. I am from the streets, make no mistake about it. I've dated strippers and I've dated escorts. Okay? So, fucking tell me. I get heated, man. I do. You guys hear me. I go off. And that's why I take all of this stuff and I put it into my creative endeavors. And right now, we were doing pretty good talking about Thomas Pynchon. We were talking about, you guys want to hear another one? I'm going to play another song for you guys. Okay. I think, let's just play this one over. Okay. This is Burning in the Night. I don't know how loud you can hear it or not. I can't have it too loud. I'm in the library. Ugh. It's a terrible vocal performance. Okay. These vocal performances were done under duress. And nobody understands this. I hadn't gotten sober yet. Okay. I had a lot of things going on. I just came in off the streets, and that's when I was targeted by the police department in St. Clair Shores and whoever was breaking into my computer. And that looks like it was my drummer. They were calling me F word, the N word. I mean, like, whatever, man. That's why we were called. I put it in my book. You know, the people would see us when we were punk rockers, and they'd be like, "Oh, the freaks come out at night. The freaks come out at night." Ooh. That's why when two people from Harmony House Records, where I worked, who I thought were my friends, who are no longer my friends, this one POS, asexual phony, piecemealed me, and he owes me money, and I needed that money bad, and he piecemealed me. He sent me $50 at a time. He's like, "What? I don't know what you're talking about. What?" Plausible deniability. That phony was in my computer for 13 years. Yep. That's what I'm trying to tell you, man. This is an unnatural obsession with another person. It's unnatural. I could see having a friend or something like that, but no. We are not friends. So if we can't go out in the street and have a fist fight and drink a beer, then there ain't going to be a relationship anymore. But again, you have to understand something. Where is it all coming from? It's coming from right here. We have a relationship on Facebook, right? That's it. We have a relationship right here. Well, I'm not on Facebook anymore, and I'm not going to be on Instagram. See, I can't even hold it up. Right? I'm trying to form relationships out here. You see this? This is where I want to form relationships. Right here. Right here in the flesh. I could care less about this thing. And I could care less about any former friendships. I say it every show, guys. I don't mean to get distracted, but I'm easily distracted. Okay. So we're talking about Thomas Pynchon. We're talking about Alfred Bester. Right? I wish I could show you this stuff. I just don't have anyone to work with me. I don't, I got that boomer energy. All right, so let's think about this for a minute. Let's go into Scorpius XL. Okay, so I'll have to do a little bit more studying to remind myself a little bit about this narrative, but I do know it. I created this while I was renting an office at Premier Office Spaces. Then I had to go back to work. Then I get fired from that job, and they cut off my benefits because, then I had like maybe $1,000 left. This is what I'm trying to tell you. This Malthusian rate of inflation going up, and there's no scarcity of foods. It's created. Okay. This is by design. And I don't give a rat's ass about that. Why? Because I have enough to feed myself. No offense to anybody with a family. I don't have a family. And I'm going to take care of myself and hopefully work in the entertainment business for the rest of my life. I moved here, and that's what I moved here to do. So if I got to start at the bottom, right? I'm starting at the bottom. Now I'm here. Don't call it a comeback. I've been here for years, right? So, and I have, and I'm not going away. And I explained to you guys, I was the first one to actually work as an actor coming from punk rock Detroit. I was the first one next to Iggy Pop. So there was no Eminem, there was no Jack White, and there was no, what's his name? Kid Rock. Okay. I did it first. All right. And I'll go down swinging. Make no mistake about it. Ooh. So we have Walter. He's coming out of working with Jeremy Cloud. And they say, Walter, do you want to make a science fiction film? And he's like, sure. Sounds good to me. Okay. So he just made Not a Sticky Candy Dish, and there's a little backlash. So they're like, okay, we want to take you out of where you're at. It's kind of like when Roman Polanski did Pardon Me, But Your Fangs Are Sticking in My Neck, Fearless Vampire Killers, right? So it's kind of like that. So he just made Fearless Vampire Killers, okay? And now they're like, do you want to make 2001, A Space Odyssey? And he's like, yeah. Right? That sounds good. But it ain't coming out till 1963, and it's 1959. And so they give him a bunch of books to read. Now, this is 1956. We can have him looking at this book. You see, this is what I'm talking about. Walter exists in our world. Walter exists next to Polanski and Kubrick and Hitchcock. You understand? So he can actually be looking at this book right here by Alfred Best. The same book, the same author that Thomas Pynchon was interested in. Okay? That's what's so great about this. That's what's so Forrest Gump about it. I do like Forrest Gump. I like those big films. I like Robert Zemeckis. I love that stuff. Okay? I think in terms of that. Spielberg, Zemeckis, George Lucas. I'm like a George Lucas man. I love American Graffiti. I love TXS 1138. Right? I already talked in my other episode about a chemical imbalance. That's where the term came from. It came from his film. It didn't come from the medical industry. They just adopted it. Hey, sounds good. Right? Right? Like a lot of things. I don't want to get into it too much. Right? So coming in for a landing. Walter, they ask him, do you want to make a film? And he says, yes. Science fiction film. He's looking at The Stars My Destination. He's looking at other books. And he discovers Scorpius XL. And Scorpius XL is written by a guy who is now he's now a professor. He's a physics professor, which is mathematics. He's a mathematics professor, physics professor at an unknown university. We're creating this right now. So Walter looks at the book and he's like, this is the book I want to do. And again, what did the studio do? Face palm. They do a face palm. Okay? So it's the same as Grabowski. Here we go again. They're like, we just sent you a stack of books this big as your head and as big as your ego, they should say. But Walter, it's just a dig. He doesn't have an ego. You know what I mean? He's very humble, gracious and kind, just like me. Right? That was my detriment, that I was nice to people who didn't deserve my niceties. So, and it is a bit of a, you know, I don't want to get into it. So once again, the three brothers face palm. They say, why do you got to pick this punk? They're like, don't you know about this guy? So you cut to the guy. He's a professor, and you could see he's up there doing his class. He's got chalk on his coat. He's always on the blackboard. And his class is sitting there fucking throwing paper airplanes. They're not listening. They don't care. You know how some kids are. And he doesn't really take command of the class. Why? Because he's really cerebral. He's right. And that's why they hired him, because he's really smart. But that doesn't necessarily mean that he has command of his class. Right. The kids are just kind of running all over him. Right. He reminds me of Alan Arkin for some reason. Right. I always picture him. I'm a big Alan Arkin fan. Right. So what was Kelly's Heroes? I don't know if Alan Arkin was in that, but Kelly's Heroes was what a remake that David O. Russell made with that film with Spike Jonze and I think Marky Mark and right the guy from NWA. Right, that was a remake of Kelly's Heroes. So, anyways, I just want to throw. I don't know. That's where my mind went. Okay, so this Nutty Professor who wrote Scorpius XL, he's covered in chalk. He teaches at a college, but when he goes home at night, he goes home, and you could see on his shelf that there's implements for self-harm. He's got a gun, he's got a noose, and he's got a bottle of poison. Okay. And he's got it right there on his shelf. And nobody really notices it because when they come in, I'm talking to you, I'm not really looking. Nobody looks at anybody else's bookshelf, mostly. They look up, oh, I see books. Okay. There's some bookends. But when he comes home after work, he always looks up and contemplates ending it, which is something that Mark Fisher did as well, right? Mark Fisher ended up committing suicide. Let's take a look at Mark Fisher. Let me see. I'm going to look it up on my phone instead. That way I don't go, that way I don't make that face. Let me see about Mark Fisher. All hail Mark Fisher. Mark Fisher. Okay, so 2017. Well, what do you know? Right? And I believe Mark Fisher was more than likely on social media, so we're going to take a look and find out. Was the late Professor Mark Fisher on social media? Okay, so here's Reddit. I'll have to enter this. I'll have to read this because it says, how did Mark Fisher explain the ravages of the internet and social media as being the products of capitalist realism? Okay, so excuse me, real capital is something that Henry Kissinger was all about. And I believe it actually goes into this Malthusianism, but I'll have to read this some other time. Right. So he was talking about social media. So you can only guess that Mark Fisher was on social media, and you can only assume that possibly, quite possibly, Mark Fisher might have been part of these meta murders. Now, I'm a little hesitant to say that. You can't really. All I'm doing is speculating. I'm forming a hypothesis based on circumstantial evidence. And that's why I leave that shit alone. That's why I just want to work on Linoleum Blown Apart. Okay. And I don't want to care about old friends. And I'm sorry, I apologize for ever thinking I was part of my family, because you're not going to get that privilege anymore. Okay. I know what unconditional love is, and that's okay. We can make it as minuscule as you like. So Mark Fisher is the template for this. Okay. So when this professor comes home in the novel that I'm writing, Linoleum Blown Apart, um, he contemplates suicide every day, but you're only going to have one scene of that. You're not going to have like, so you see him, he comes home, he's covered in chalk. His class doesn't care about him. Bueller, Bueller, Bueller. And he comes, and every day he looks at these implements of destruction. And then he'll pick up a book, right? We'll have him pick up like a book. I don't know if Marcus Aurelius committed suicide. We know Socrates, right? He drank the hemlock. So he'll immediately start reading about somebody famous who, self-harmed and went out that way. Okay, so this is the template for that character. And then Walter will show up. I don't have a name for him yet. Maybe we will call him Professor Fisher. Okay. Maybe we will in honor of Mark Fisher. That would be really nice. I'd like to see that. And again, I don't claim to be a scholar about any of this stuff. I work in the moment and I pick these things up. I didn't even know who Mark Fisher was. He just came up through the Eggieverse. And what is the Eggieverse? The Eggieverse is the internet. It's everything. It's 5G. It's morphic resonance from Rupert Sheldrake. Okay, it's all of these things, right? See, this is why I don't do stand up and all that kind of stuff, because I like talking about all kinds of things. And I'm not sitting there searching for the funny or searching for the joke. I think people who are good at it are like Mark Normand and people like this, right? He's really the only person that I think is funny. I used to think Colin Quinn's funny, but Colin Quinn does his one-man show. And this is more on the level that I'm at. I would be doing a one-man show. That's really what I wanted to do. I wanted to tell the story of my life like Two-Legged Animal, sell my book Two-Legged Animal, right? Which is always something that once these films and stuff come out, I could do at the age of whatever, 65. Play my guitar, sell my books. That's all I ever wanted. Now that's on this lower level. Okay, look at Dwayne Peters, all the stuff that he's done, and all he does now is sell skateboards out of his garage and live in a car. You know what I mean? I'm not putting him down, but I'm just using it as a basis of comparison. I have a lot more going on. I could pick up a guitar and play the songs that I've written. Nobody else in the Detroit milieu can do that. In the punk rock 1980s scene, they can't do it. I can. And that's why I decided to turn it into a not fade away soprano style series. Okay. And I know I look crazy, but this is really tough. I mean, if I could have it to where I stood up, and did this big lecture, but I can't do that because I got to keep it down to the library. So this guy comes home. He contemplates suicide every day. And now Walter shows up. And Walter's like, I want to talk to you about your book. He's like, what about it? He's just like that. That's just how the dialogue goes. What about it? Well, my name's Walter, and I'm a filmmaker. You're a filmmaker? This is what this guy is. You're a filmmaker? He's just suspicious of everybody. Right? He's paranoid. He's suspicious. You're a filmmaker. You're going to make a film out of that? No. Well, we're going to pay you. Pay me. Pay me? Pay me what? The guy's by himself, maybe. Like Grabowski. Grabowski was a womanizer. Grabowski's based on Dashiell Hammett. He's the one who wrote the book In My Property called Pork Chops and the Who's Gal. So who's this guy? This guy is Mark Fisher. This guy is the Sunset Limited, Tommy Lee Jones. He's overwhelmed by society, doesn't give a fuck. He lives by himself, or we could create a spouse for him. I don't know. I haven't gotten that far into it. I think he should just be by himself. You can't make a film of this. Do you know what kind of book this is? Now, he's written something like Escher and Bach. I always forget the other name. And we're going to go with this. because you can see me better when you. Escher and Bach. Ooh, Godel, Escher, PDF. Okay, Godel, Escher, and Bach. I always forget who Godel was. I don't need a PDF. I'll just go to. I'm Wiki Alma Mater. That's my boomer energy. I got boomer energy. Right? I'm a Gen Xer. Don't get it twisted, as the kids say. Did I still say it? No. Okay, so Goodell, Escher, and Bach. I always forget about Goodell. I don't even know who Goodell is. Kurt Goodell. He's the mathematician. Yeah, he's a logician, mathematician. Oh, okay. So I will be studying Goodell, and I will study him for as a template for this professor. So do you see my process here? Do you see how I'm working? Okay. So this professor wrote a book that's very similar to Goodell, Escher, and Bach. Okay. And he also wrote Scorpius XL, which is a novel, but it contains a lot of really interesting themes in it that haven't arrived yet. Why? Because a lot of the themes I took from today. So that's why this guy is ahead of his time. Okay. Now, don't forget, there's another band. They're called Scorpius XL. I mean, they're called the Heretical Sons. And in the scene in the film, Lo, so let's get into the film a little bit. So we just introduced the professor character. So in the film, there's 4 astronauts. On the night before the launch, 2 of the astronauts race an Aston Martin against a brand new Mustang. And in 1962 or 63, when these cars come out, they look nearly identical. You guys should see it. I should have all this stuff up ready for you to go, but what are you going to do? This is all thought out. So these cars are nearly identical, okay? And they go for a race on the night before. They're drinking beer. There's an accident, and the Gus Grissom style feller. Sorry, I'm doing this with no glasses. See, when I put my glasses on, I'm just like, talk normal. When I don't have them on, I'm like, so it's this Gus Grissom style character. He's dead. That's it. He dies right in the beginning of the film. So what they do is they bring in the kid. He's the second runner up to them. They all have doubles, right? They all have doubles. So they all have seconds, right? Like an assistant director, right? So he's second team. And so they go to his house at 3:00 in the morning and they pull him out. Well, he's staying with his parents and he snuck a girl inside of his house, right? And at that moment in time, this is imperative to the story, guys. He told the girl that they were in love and that they were going to make a commitment that night. And he wasn't just saying it to get in her pants, right? He really felt it for the first time. And in that moment, the MPs show up. Not boom, boom, boom. Whoa, dude. Or they already had coitus. They're laying there together. And he's like, okay, maybe I will settle down. He just literally made this commitment. This is the film Scorpius XL. And then the MPs come in. Boom. He's at his parents' house. So there's an awkward moment because his parents went to bed and he snuck the girl in the house. Now he's one of these guys. He's got his army bag, keeps all his stuff in the army bag. You understand? So he's one of these guys. And they're like, let's go. He's like, go where? They're like, you're on the flight. And he's like, what do you mean I'm on the flight? And they explain to him what happened. And the parents come down. They have to open the door. And then all of a sudden, the girl appears from his bedroom, and then the mother and the girl have a scene together. Oh, hello. Who are you? Very awkward. And now the son is leaving forever. And they take him, and he's got to go. And he's getting on the flight right now into the rocket. And the rocket was helped created by who? Werner, Eva's brother. The one who goes all the way back to Of Reasonable Service, that's based on a play called Vivisection on the Danube. Are you guys following this at all? You guys never fucking talk to me. I probably have I probably got the weirdest audience in the world. Like, you guys are just like, we just put you on and fucking drink beer and smoke weed and laugh at you while we play music. Okay. Right. You guys follow me here? The MP's knock on the door and he's got to get in the spacecraft. So while he's on his way and the MPs are taking him up there, he has a nervous breakdown. All right, that's what we used to call it. Now look at the Black Flag song. It's called Nervous Breakdown. That's part of the reason why in the 1980s I sliced myself up to get a hold of my band, to get a grip, because I knew I was the only one that had to write the songs. Leave me alone. Let me write the fucking songs. And then all these sissies from all these hardcore punk bands with all these tattoos. Yeah. Yeah. How about some 2022s right here? It turned into this big fucking popularity contest. And it still goes on in Michigan today with the same people. And they were using this, and they all knew about it. And they expected me to commit suicide. You're going to wish, you're going to pray, you're going to find God because I didn't commit suicide, you fucking piece of shit. And there is no revenge. You're just a piece of shit, and you know it. If you knew me from the punk rock scene, fuck you officially on my show. Fuck you. If you were in my band, fuck you again. You pieces of shit knew what the fuck was going on. You goddamn liars. They'll never, including my wife, you'll never pass a lie detector test. Ever. Because you can't. And this is what I was trying to talk about with the E-meter and with this cognitive therapy. That's why I don't put down Scientology. Freudian cognitive therapy with Freud and Jung. This is the kind of thing that you can get into. And what I do is I take mine and I put it out into the Eggyverse. And then it comes back to me how? With this creative ability. It's a creative ability that I've always had, that I harnessed to myself. I didn't go take lessons anywhere. Okay, I actually took scene work, and I did scene work after I already had work as an actor. I had done 3 or 4 plays already. I had done student films. Okay, right? And so then I realized it's like, hey man, I want more training. People like Harvey Keitel, they bring their scene partner, his acting coach, right on the set with him. Not many actors do that. Harvey Keitel was fired from Apocalypse Now. Not many actors could say that they were fired from a big film. I guess more people can say it now, but whatever, who gives a shit, right? And that was like a big deal. Okay. So let's talk about Scorpius XL. Look at where we're at here. We're going to have to wrap it up here really quickly. Look at what happens in Scorpius XL. Gus Grissom dies. Everybody loves this Gus Grissom guy. And then they go get his replacement. And they drag him to the fucking thing. And he's looking at this fucking thing. Okay, he's been through all the tests. That's why they're picking him. He's the runner-up. And so he was relieved to be sent home. Do you understand? So he's with his parents. He's happy. He's drinking beers. He's like, and then they go to bed, and then he sneaks a girl in, and he thinks, man, after I went through all this, they're going to send me back to the Air Force that he came from. And he's like, oh, well, yeah, let's hook up. Let's start a family. Okay. So what happened? His brain chemistry changed. He's no longer an alpha male out there horn dogging it up, right? His brain chemistry changed. And this is key. So they're dragging him. And you got this dolly shot. You could see it. You see the fucking rocket. You see the plumes coming from, right, the liquid nitrogen, right? You see these plumes, and here he comes. You're going in there, and you're going. And they're told, well, I don't want to give too much of it away, but please leave a comment. Let me know who you are, like Kate, I guess. Right? Let me know that you're interested in this project. I work on it every single day, and I work on it sometimes right here on my channel. I talk about a lot of things. I'm not trying to be fringe, and I'm not trying to get kicked off of anywhere. I mean, you take a look at some of these platforms. It's like Rumble, Rockfin. People are on multi-platforms. And by the way, let's take a look. And don't forget, Malthusianism is a false scarcity for food. And that's what these people like Klaus Schwab, Henry Kissinger Jr., who I put in my song Bohemian Grove, are all about. Okay. And there was just a headline, a very scary headline about 1 billion people possibly dying. They already had a big scare with COVID, saying that the hospitals were overflowing with people. Very scary stuff. Okay. Shit, I was going to look something up. I can't remember. If I had an audience, you could put it in there. Like, you were just talking about this. That's okay. You know, I keep going. I'm going to look up inauthentic behavior once again, because I didn't read. Because I didn't get a chance to read the entire thing. Okay, it's a phrase coined by Facebook, is the use of multiple social media accounts or pages to mislead or influence people for political or financial ends. As part of the deception, these pages hide the identities and obscure the motives of the people behind them. Oh, God. As the use of Facebook, their assets to mislead people. Okay, so it looks like what they're doing is they tied it into fake accounts. Okay, that creates Facebook's plausible deniability. But I'm here to tell you that they use these in conjunction with the Google, which is hertz per second. It's 10 to the 100th power. Okay, and that's how they measure hertz, which is, I don't want to get too far afield, right? Rotations per second. And that means and proves that this is weaponized. This is what they were using on me in the state of New York. They used it on me here. And that proves that this device is weaponized. And so this inauthentic behavior, they're saying that it came from another source. Okay, so this creates the plausible deniability from Facebook. But I'm here to tell you that it's actual human behavior. And that's what my turncoat drummer put on my $2,000 computer and ruined it. That's what I was supposed to have when I came out here. I did not leave Detroit to get away from them. I would have confronted him. Right? I would have confronted him, but I went by his behavior. I talked to his mother, and I got his mother to implicate not only her, but him. Okay. And yeah, I am an actor. Fucking trash. So she implicated him. And then A number of accounts were taken down. So he ran, and that's what he did. He ran because he knew he was involved in this behavioral operation down in Florida. And, like I said, I lived through it. And then they were expecting me to self harm. Why? Because they're obsequious Philistines, they're bureaucrats, they're pencil pushers, and they work with the pornography industry. It's just a fact. When I came here, a black detective, police officer was working at some place, make sure he got in my face, and he showed me one of the predators who's not part of the LGBT community. If you're a predator, I'm sorry, you're a predator. Okay? You're not part of any community. It doesn't matter who you are. You understand? You can't be part of any community if you're there to prey on individuals. Okay? So that's how I feel about it. Again, I'm not a vigilante. I'm not a cop. I don't really care. I'm here for creative purposes. And I hope you guys got the gist of not only the professor, we'll call him Fisher from now on, in tribute to Mark Fisher. But do you see the stakes in Scorpius XL? In that very first, it's not the first scene. There's scenes earlier than that. But they take this kid out and they bring him to the rocket. And he's having a nervous breakdown. And he says, I don't want to go. And they're like, you got to go. You got to go. And they bring in a priest. And the priest tells him about hermeneutics. And he explains to him that the Son of God is not only the Christ, but it's the Son. And if you're a heretic, then you're against, right? You're against the Holy Church, right? So that's why the band become the heretical sons, S-U-N. Like the Son itself is a heretic, and they are sons, right? Each one in the band. People get it. It's like Soundgarden, right? When you hear the name Soundgarden, it's like you understand what the band is. It's like, right? So when the kids in the scene hear about the heretical sons, they're like, oh, yeah, we got our name from Scorpius XL. They're not going to call themselves Scorpius XL. That's kind of corny. We all know that. There's no band called Clockwork Orange, right? There's a band called The Addicts, and they dress like Clockwork Orange. You see what I mean? You see this, the Droogies, right? That kind of thing, right? So that's why they call their band Heretical Sons. That's part of Scorpius XL. So you see there's a band that comes out of the film, and the film comes out of this professor, and this professor starts hanging out with Walter. This is the complexity of what I'm talking about. I developed this by myself, by writing and freestyling and freeforming, free associating, right? But we all know nothing's free. But thank you very much for watching my show. I appreciate it more than you'll ever know.